Okay, we are good to go.
Hi, welcome to...
Or Albion, bitches!
That's pretty epic. Hi, welcome to the Dead Headz Podcast, the only podcast where we don't talk about zombies this week.
For all
hi.
those who are checking in and don't know what we do, we typically talk about Call of Duty Zombies, but this is a special occasion. It's a unique situation. We wanted to discuss what we saw in the Xbox conference, share our thoughts, opinions, feelings, theories, all of that stuff. We got a list pulled up of all the games. We're going to go through it. Some are going to be lengthy discussions. Some are not. To the left of me is with the Bono PFP is Jack, also known as Jack.
The one with the bad opinions.
The one with the most controversial ones, as you'll soon find out.
Oh, yeah.
With the Thomas the Tank Engine PFP, I'm Joe. And to my right, Mr. Bug. What's your name?
Late one.
Joseph.
That's how we distinguish each other.
The only difference.
Yeah, that's it. That's the only one.
Let's just dive right into the heart of the matter. Right? Let's
Hello, neighbor 2.
Let's start off with the game that brought everybody in to the conference. They brought them in. They kept it very hush-hush, very secretive. That's how they pulled the numbers. And they revealed some gameplay to us. Of course, Halo Infinite. We'll start off... I think we should start off with the biggest Halo... or maybe not the biggest, but the longest Halo fan is Mr. Berger, followed by you, Jack, and then me, the fresh-faced noob who's only played Reach. So, Berger, why don't you give us your thoughts and stuff first?
So I've never been this excited about a game release ever. Like, I don't know, I've just been waiting for this game for so long, especially after Halo 5. Like, I enjoyed Halo 5, but I definitely think it was one of the weaker titles in the series. And seeing that they really kind of harked back to that Combat Evolved style with this new one, I'm extremely excited. Like, for real, I was so close to pulling a JC when that started.
For reference, JC Backfire, another huge Halo fan, you should look up his reaction to the Halo Infinite trailer, and you can probably get a good idea of how Berger here reacted.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, oh man, I don't even know. Like, so I know there were rumors last year that had come out that they were going for an open world style game with the Infinite, and I was slightly worried at first because, generally speaking, I was never the biggest fan of open world games. But then this past year and during quarantine and stuff, I had the chance to play some open world games that were done well. And that's kind of renewed my faith in open world games as a whole. And then once I saw the little bit of gameplay that they actually had for the game, it just pretty much took me straight back to Combat Evolved. And that's something that I don't think the series has had really since Combat Evolved, was big, massive worlds. Especially considering that the first one came out in 2001. You know, we just haven't seen something that big of scale really since then.
I don't know.
Has it been that long?
Oh, it hasn't. The sense of scale that you're talking about hasn't been seen since Combat Evolved. I'd like to call bullshit on that and raise you Mission 2 of Halo 4. The mission Requiem.
That's fair. That's fair.
When you come over that hill and you see the vista, that is powerful. The way that the music always swells to as you crest over that hill and you see this insane scale of Forerunner architecture, and you just take in this entirely new planet. And it does harken back to Combat Evolved. So I would say that the feeling of Combat Evolved, it's always been there. It hasn't, contrary to what other people might say, the feelings of being back in Combat Evolved have never left Halo. People just choose not to see it.
I can see what you're saying, and I will be a bit honest here. It's been a hot minute since I have played Halo 4, but I think I roughly... Fine. But I do vaguely remember the mission that you're talking about, and while yes, yes, Halo's had, big scale stuff since Combat Evolved. I think in 2 and 3 it kind of waned off a bit, and as much as I love Halo 3...
I like matte paintings.
Having just replayed Halo 3's campaign last week, it definitely didn't have a whole lot of grand scale, big battle stuff. And even from what I recall with Halo 4 and 5, while they did have big kind of open missions, they didn't really have missions, from what I remember, that you could literally go anywhere. And one thing that I noticed here when they pulled up the mini-map in the gameplay was you had kind of the 3 different waypoints for the 3 turrets. And there's a few missions from Combat Evolved that I distinctly remember where you had to go to a couple different places for like life pods and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the second mission of Combat Evolved.
Yeah, and you were able to choose kind of which one you started with, which way you went.
I mean, that's also mission 6 of Halo 4.
Remind me on that one, because it's been a while.
It's the one where you're in the Pelican. It's Shutdown. Mission 6, Shutdown.
What else happens in that one?
It's the one where you're flying the Pelican. You have to go to 2 different sort of uplink stations.
Oh, right.
Gondola,
yeah.
And then the floors. Now, the floors are third. It's the open area, then the gondolas, then the floors.
Yes, but if I remember, if it's the mission that I'm thinking of, well, yes, you had the choice. There really wasn't much else in the mission. Like, it was like the 2, areas where you had to go, but then it was just sky. And there really wasn't a whole lot that you could do, except maybe engage in some dogfights and stuff. But other than that, there was really only 2 points of interest.
I mean, you could say for Mission 2 of Combat Evolved that between the 3 life pods, there was nothing. I just replayed Combat Evolved's campaign. Mission 2, it's just like, go to the life pods, lol, try not to get lost.
I mean, I guess that's... I don't know. I just feel... Yes, I get what you're saying with the Halo 4 mission, but it just seemed like it was... Even though it was open, there was less, exploratory things that you could do.
I see that.
In that mission. And even still, as a whole, Combat Evolved and lots of its other missions, and like lots of the snowy missions and stuff, you had like a lot of open areas and places that you could go. You can completely avoid lots of the battles if you want and just pretty much drive straight through, or you can go through and engage in every single one. And I think as the years went on, that was something that started to kind of get lost in translation on the games.
If I could jump in real quick.
No.
I noticed, like, this is from an outsider looking in. Like, again, I've only ever played Halo Reach. I played the first 2 missions of Combat Evolved, but I've really only played Reach. And I know a few things about Halo. I know that it's typically not open world. I know Halo Infinite's going to be the first open world Halo. But, like... How do you guys think that will be handled? Because, it's new territory for Halo, and as we know, a good open world game can only be... Like, an open world game is only as good as the side missions and extra content that fill it.
I wouldn't say... My takeaway from this is that it's not... I don't think it's going to be a specifically open world game. I feel like it's going to be, and I'm going to borrow this phrase from theme park design. I think it's going to be a game where it's sort of like a hub and spokes sort of thing, where you have like a specific hub, and that might be like the crash site of the Pelican, and from there you go on to other missions. It's like the New Mombasa Streets from ODST. I feel like it's going to be like that, where, yeah, you have places to explore, but there's going to be specific points where you have to go into a mission. Maybe there might not be a cutscene to show that you're in the mission, but I feel like that it's gonna feel a lot more like ODST.
I was thinking the exact same thing, because I think that was something that I really appreciate that they experimented with in ODST that I really wish they had maybe expanded on in later titles. I think ODST gave you the most freedom of what you could do in any of the games, because there was no specific order. I mean, there was an order to things.
Yeah.
But leading up to that point, you really had full range of what you wanted to do in that game.
Yeah.
If I were to guess, I feel like it would be in the sense that it'll be not a huge open world map. I don't think it's going to be something along the levels of like GTA or even Far Cry.
Mm-hmm.
I think what it's going to be is it's going to be a very large space. And if I had the theory, it would be you could get into a spaceship after the first couple missions, and you go to different planets or systems around the campaign, and each planet or system has another big, large map. Again, not on the scale of like Far Cry or anything, but a very wide open space with a lot to explore, hopefully collect, discover, find out what happens. Maybe there's got to be side quests. If there's not side quests in the campaign, the open world is going to feel severely underutilized.
Hey, Joe, I'm sorry. You literally just described Destiny.
Well, I'm not saying it should be Destiny, but saying
that's exactly what you described.
I'm not saying it should be exactly like Destiny, but there's nothing wrong with looking at a game and going like, that did that mechanic very well. I think that they should learn the lesson from that and incorporate it into their next project.
See that, but still, there's got to be something that because then it just feels like that Bungie just made another Halo game, except it was 3 years ago.
How's that?
By the way, if you couldn't gather, I really do not like Bungie. And I do not like their Halo games.
He's a big 343 fan, isn't he?
I'm probably the biggest 343 fan.
And if you're new to the podcast, just one example of his controversial opinions.
Yeah. See, I'm the one that takes the brunt of the hate, so you guys don't have to.
Well, what about multiplayer? We don't really have much to go off of from the story. Basically, again, outsider looking in, so correct me if I'm wrong. Cortana turns evil in like Halo 5. Possibly has a hand in wiping out the human race. And
it's not just human race, it's pretty much any race who doesn't follow her.
Yeah, it's the created.
Yeah,
it's just the AI now.
Well, I don't think that's entirely true because we saw that one. I trigger some hardcore fans because I don't know the names of these guys, but that one ape-looking dude who
Roots. Well, they remember. Okay, I'm gonna do some explaining for you real quick, Joe.
Let me explain you something.
Yeah. So in the 2017 top-down strategy game Halo Wars 2. A new faction was introduced called the Banished. Now, they are a Covenant splinter group made up primarily of the Brutes, which are very large ape creatures that took over the elites in Halo 2. And I really swear to God hope that the Banished aren't the main antagonists of Halo Infinite, because I really liked how the created look. And just to drop that without any pretext, God, I'd hate that. Because then it just feels like that they're caving.
From the reveal trailer, not the reveal trailer, but the gameplay trailer, at the end, it had a very long speech from what looked to be the leader of the Banished.
It's not the leader of the Banished.
Oh, from one Banished soldier, then. I feel like you might hate me when I say this, but I feel like if they're not the primary antagonist, they're going to be a very prominent secondary antagonist.
Like the Flood. old.
I don't know what that is, but yes.
Well, and I haven't played Halo Wars 2 yet. It's on my list of games to play, especially now that the Banished are actually confirmed in Infinite. But I know that Halo Wars 2 had a few mission expansion kind of thing that reintroduced the Flood. So I am curious if we are going to see the Flood again in Infinite.
So we had the Pug, who was doing the voices of the Flood.
What I noticed something. The guy with the beard, we don't know his name yet. We
Warhammer.
saw him in the reveal trailer. Do you think he's going to be like the new, not necessarily the new Cortana, but as Cortana was like the
A new
partner in the past games for Master Chief? Since she is on her own path now, we
don't know where
partner.
she is.
Yeah, we don't know where she is.
She has a goddamn Halo ring.
Yeah.
Why did you
like,
drop that
Do you
343?
think he's going to be the new partner?
I hope so. Warhammer has me very excited.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because they definitely... She's in the game, whether or not they said it or not. Obviously, Cortana's going to be in the game in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But in the trailer that they released, I think it was at E3 last year, they had a little snippet of Cortana at the end. And it looked like, Chief was kind of walking up to her, and I think he was like pulling the chip out of the back of his head, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe there's gonna be some sort of redemption arc for Cortana.
I
don't know. That'd be a pretty quick redemption.
Decisions were made that I am not a fan of.
Well, to be fair, this game I think is taking a year to 3 years after Halo 5. I don't remember the exact time span.
It's 2 years.
2 years.
Game-wise, I feel like that'd be a pretty quick redemption arc.
Yes.
Now,
it's such a good arc in Halo 4.
Halo 4, doesn't she die in Halo 4?
Yes, she does.
And then Halo 5, she gets like resurrected and turned evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Halo, wouldn't that be a pretty quick turnaround? Within a 3-game period, she dies, comes back to life, gets evil, and then redeems herself.
Yeah.
I feel like
even Magneto had that kind of turnaround.
Huh.
I feel
that's
like
funny you say that because my wife and I just watched through all those movies.
First Class is the best X-Men movie.
Logan. Well, Logan's not X-Men.
Technically, sort of. Yes, he is.
I kind of like Days of Future Past more, but that's beside the point. I feel like if they were to do something, I wouldn't think they would do a redemption arc, but I feel like they would have kind of like a bittersweet moment where it's like...
We already had that.
Well, in a sense that, Chief and Cortana confront each other, and they both know that Cortana turned back, and like Cortana feels remorse to an extent, but she knows that there's no going back, and she has to continue what she's doing, and so it'll kind of be like a bittersweet, confrontation.
We had that in 5.
Yeah, but 5's ass.
And plus, I mean, even still in 5, she kind of ended up becoming victorious anyway.
He has a halo.
So I mean, I can get on board with what Joe just said. I could see that happening in some way, because again, obviously they can't just drop Cortana. She's going to have some play in the game. The Created and the Forerunners, they're going to have some, aspect in this game.
Drop the Forerunners. Can't just drop the Forerunners.
Yeah.
Not at this stage.
But all in all, I'm excited.
Yeah. What about the multiplayer?
Sprint is back. Let's go.
The only part we haven't touched on yet. Yeah, the multiplayer. We've got sprinting and grappling hooks,
and we've got sliding. Hell yeah!
Oh, I didn't notice the sliding.
Mobility.
I didn't notice the sliding either. Maybe that's because my stream was buffering so much that.
Yeah, I had that issue as well.
I feel like that was on Xbox, which was kind of a rocky start to the conference. Because you look at PlayStation, it's like
Xbox One.
It's like, I'm not being like, oh yeah, PlayStation rules, but if you look at PlayStation's, it's all games. There's aside from the transitions that they did in between games, there was no talking, only games, and it was very fluid. Xboxes, there was a noticeably large amount of talking. There was a lot of buffering.
How much time did PlayStation get?
I think that was an hour as well.
Like it was longer than that.
I know.
It probably felt like that, but that's probably because they packed a lot of stuff in.
Probably.
I don't know. I didn't watch the PlayStation one.
I did it out of
have a
posterity.
PlayStation, but I mean, the next one I probably will watch.
I watched the PlayStation one because I wanted to see all the really cool games that I'll never get to play.
Same.
Yeah.
Here's also, I think also the problem is that like I can't talk today. They spent 12 minutes on Halo Infinite.
Yeah,
Which
I
is
was
fun.
expecting more, honestly. With how much they've been building it up this past week, I expected a little longer of a presentation.
Well,
Yeah.
think about
An
it.
hour and a half would have suited them nicely. They didn't even
Well,
get
think-
to Mojang. They needed Minecraft too, but they didn't give it to us.
Think about it this way. It's an hour-long conference, same as Sony's, I believe. 12 minutes doesn't seem like a lot, but that's nearly 25% of the conference dedicated to Halo Infinite. I think that's a good chunk.
Well, yeah, I
Even
mean, if you
more.
put it in that perspective, yes. But, I don't know. I've just wanted this game for so long that I just want more.
Well,
The problem is they backed themselves into a corner by announcing it literally 2 years ago and not giving us anything.
Yeah.
they were very secretive about that, but I feel like that worked to their advantage because that pulled in a lot of people to view the conference.
See, and I'm wondering if because of how many people were watching it just for Halo Infinite was what was causing some of the issues, is they just weren't able to handle the
Got
sheer
it.
number of people tuning in for this.
So I feel like even though people had a lot of grievances with being starved for information, starved for content, I really think that worked in their favor because, yeah, we waited I say we like I'm a part of the Halo community, but we as a people waited for so long for information about this game, and now they gave us a lot of content can fit into a 12-minute period. Now the Halo community is going to have a lot to discuss that's probably going to take us easily throughout the rest of the summer and probably start to peter off around September or October. And by that point, with the game being a couple months away, we're going to have a lot more information.
Well, yeah, I mean, we still have the multiplayer reveal that they said will be coming. So, I mean, we really are in the home stretch for this game. We're,
Speaking of multiplayer,
no more than 6 months away from this game coming out. So it's really, really close.
speaking of multiplayer, like we said, we haven't seen anything from it, but it's safe to assume that sprinting and grappling will be in multiplayer. However, what are your thoughts and feelings on that? And for pleasing both new fans as well as hardcore fans, how do you think they're going to handle these new gameplay systems?
So so I'll be just upfront honest. I prefer Bungie's Halos over what 343 has done. I think when it comes to the multiplayer, they've codified it to a more of a degree. Personally, I will say I never had an issue with sprinting in Halo. I was not one of those very vocal people who hated it. If it's in there, it's in there. If it's not, it's not. I didn't really care either way. The grappling hook, that'll be interesting, because that was not really something that I'd ever thought of being in the game. And I guess
Doom can do it.
I mean, we saw, ideas of advanced movement in Halo 5 with the jetpacks, like the built-in boosters and jetpacks and stuff. So I'm curious as well if they're going to dial back on those in favor of the grapple, or if the grapple will be supplementary to the boosters and the jetpacks that we had in Halo 5. But when it comes to the base multiplayer, I would love for it to go back to a more Halo 3-esque style when it comes to maps
if you want to go back to Halo 3, you know what you can do?
What's
Go
that?
back to MCC and play Halo 3, baby.
Dude, that's what I've been doing so much of the last few weeks. You don't even know.
Here's Do you guys? Well, what about you, Kat? First, what do you think
Take
about
that take the advanced mobility and inject it right into my veins. I need all of it, and I need all of it now. Um, yeah, there's just so much there, and I need it all. Thank you, 343, for keeping in advanced mobility. Didn't cave on that. Thank you so much.
Well,
Yes.
how about so in terms of sprinting, that's probably going to be ingrained pretty well, but I'll get to my theory in a sec on that. In terms of grappling hooks, we've seen that it can pull you up certain ledges, pull certain things towards you so you can throw them. I don't know if that's going to be incorporated into the multiplayer or if it'll just remain in the campaign. And we can grapple towards enemies and melee them. I don't know if they're going to incorporate that into the multiplayer a la Titanfall 2, but if they do, I feel like they really need to keep a balance because depending on the grappling speed and the melee damage and the gun damage, that could really pose a problem for game balance if they don't handle the grappling hooks carefully.
Like, what if everyone has it? So, like,
Well, everyone probably would have it unless they made it like a
cup.
a perk up, which I could totally see them doing. However, I could see them doing that in its own kind of separate game mode, like classic arena, but you find these perk ups, and instead of like a regular, let's say, Call of Duty match where one loadout has the grappling hook, and let's say you don't have a grappling hook, and it's super annoying to fight this guy who does. Is there going to be a recharge rate on the grappling hook, or is it unlimited use? What's the range? There's all these kind of questions and possibilities that are presented now at this popular feature, yet unheard of to the franchise, is being introduced.
See, and that was something as well that really kind of drove me off from Halo 4's and 5's multiplayers was the custom loadouts. And like when I say they ended up codifying the game, that's really what I meant. They really made the
5 didn't have loadouts.
Did it not? I thought it did.
It didn't.
That shows you how much I've played 5. But between like most of the maps, I mean, they still had big maps in 4 and 5, but I feel like, especially in 4 with the loadouts and stuff, and they really started going to more like e-sporty, smaller maps became a big focus in the normal MP for those games. And when it comes to Halo, I prefer my big team battles. I prefer all my vehicles driving around on all these big maps, and I feel like that was something, especially in Halo 5, that ended up getting lost.
I mean,
that's Warzone. Well, and that's what I was about to say next. I will say one of my favorite things about Halo 5 was Warzone. That was a fantastic PvE mode, or PvPvE mode. That was fantastic.
Because there's Warzone and Warzone Firefight. Warzone Firefight is PvE. Warzone is PvPvE. Sometimes.
I'm going to pose a question or a theory or proposition, whatever you want to call it. And I want to, because it would probably satisfy both your side of the Halo community, Cap, as well as your side of the Halo community. The Call of Duty multiplayer playlists where they've got core and hardcore.
Yeah.
What if they made a playlist system like that in Halo Infinite, but instead of core and hardcore, it's classic and modern, where classic is that, the classic multiplayer, no sprinting, no grappling hooks, just no aim down sights or anything that you would find in Combat Evolved 2-3. And then modern would be more for Cap's side of the community, where you would have grappling hooks and sprinting and all that. If they incorporated it like that, I feel like it would satisfy both sides of the community. And yeah, there'd be discourse about, which one would be better, which one is true Halo. But I feel like everybody would be happy in that.
I feel like it's going to take a lot of work to do that. Because if it's on the same map pool, we're going to start seeing which system is objectively better for the game. Because if it's on the same maps, if, say, playing on Valhalla or Ragnarok, Halo 4's remaster of it, do you want to play a bigger map with no sprints, no mobility options, so you're just trudging along a very large map? Or would you want to have all the mobility options to get around faster? Which one would objectively suit the game better?
Yeah, but they've had big maps ever since Combat Evolved, and where there was no sprinting, no advanced movement at all.
Because that wasn't an option before. That was never on the table.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, though, is those games ended up playing just fine without it.
Well, and now that there is options for, to have the modern movement and to not have it.
But the only issues that I would have with that, while in theory it sounds like a really good idea, my worry is that it would split the player base too much, and then you'd have issues getting into one or the other, depending on which one ended up becoming the favorite.
Yeah.
Which would you rather have, though, a split player base or an alienated player? Because if they focus entirely on the modern player base, that's going to alienate the classic player base, which, from what I've seen, is a significant portion of the game. Is what the modern, I'd say the community is like 2/3 classic, 1/3 modern. That's still a big amount.
Be fooled by them. People that are online saying that, modern Halo's bad and just being incredibly toxic, I'm pretty sure that they're an incredibly vocal minority.
I don't know. I don't know entirely about that. But what do you think?
I mean, as with everything, you kind of have to take what you see online with a grain of salt on, okay, while this is the loudest voice being heard, is that really the majority? And I mean, obviously with me, I would much prefer kind of a more classic feel, but I don't negate the fact that there are a lot of people that do like the new one. And I'm not saying that it's bad per se. Like, I mean, I've had fun in Halo 4 and Halo 5's multiplayers. But when it comes to my preference, if they have a way to balance it out, if they keep just one playlist or, one type of multiplayer instead of, doing all this separating, I'll probably end up enjoying it no matter what. I don't know. For me, as long as they don't go full Halo 4 and 5 with it, and they dial it back a bit to where it has more classic feel, but kind of a fresh feel, I'll be okay with that.
All right. Well, I think we've just about covered all aspects.
No, we're not done yet.
Oh.
Not done yet.
What do you have more to add about Halo,
I do. I have so much more I could add.
Well, I'm a little hesitant to ask, but what do you have to add?
All right. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about Infinite. Is that before I actually get into that, I'm gonna take you back to December 2019. The little film release I'd like to call Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh, if you remember, during and I know it's difficult because this was before quarantine and all this stuff. If you remember, last inline Star Wars film to come out before The Rise of Skywalker, the little film I'd like to call Star Wars: The Last Jedi. And needless to say, it was fairly divisive. It was fairly divisive. I'm not going to say my opinions on it, because I'm going to get crucified if I say it.
Which means
you already know what his opinions are.
It's my favorite Star Wars film. There's a lot of backlash against that film. And going into The Rise of Skywalker, it was apparent that Disney and all the people making that film, J.J. Abrams, all the people making Episode 9, took those criticisms to heart. What we saw was a compromising, pandering, overblown, yet incredibly dull finale was coming off of a very a concept, almost original, incredibly original Star Wars film. We see this just studio cowardice, the worst kind of quote unquote fan. And I very much fear that this is what we're going to be seeing in Infinite.
Oh, I don't.
To pander to the people that don't like Halo. People that call themselves Halo fans and yet spew vitriol over the series day in and day out. And that is what I'm afraid of, because those people should not be getting what they want. Because they're stopping other people from enjoying what they want to enjoy. And my favorite Halo game is Halo 4. I was not proud to say that. I'm still not proud to say that.
To be fair, though, Halo 4 has, as time has gone on, it has aged much better. And as a whole, I think the community has, come around to it.
Not to the same extent as Reach. No way. People hated Reach on launch. Wanted Master Chief back. Wanted to see where he was going. And now they give us Spartan 3s? Are you kidding me? No. Now look where Reach is.
Well, and you see... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The goal, it's the new golden boy of the franchise. Second only to Halo 3, which, by the way, Halo 3 fills me with so much rage. I do not want to get into that right now.
Your point about the community, I don't think, I think Star Wars is a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? I think Star Wars is a lot more sensitive, has a lot of more sensitive subject matters and discourse in the fandom than Halo does. All of these people that I see, who are fans of the classic Halo, I never see them be like overly, angry or toxic about anything. I just
It's there.
You're not looking in the right place. You haven't.
I'm sure if I dove onto the Halo subreddit, I'd just be buried up to my neck in awful, but that's because it's Reddit.
Soon as you say that you're a fan of 343's Halo, oh boy, here comes the hate.
I think it's worn off a bit more over the years, but it's still definitely not a universally acceptable opinion for most. Or for, I wouldn't say most, I'd say for a lot of people.
Or majority of the fan base.
Well, I was just saying, if we're going back to how people didn't like Reach at the time, I think this is something that it was an issue with Reach, but I think it ended up being a bigger issue, and specifically Halo 5, where those games kind of were basing them heavily on if you had read other media. Because if you had read some of the novels, even, back in the Bungie days of it, Halo 3s Spartan 3s had been around for years, way before Halo Reach came out. So the fact that it's like, what, there's other Spartans and not Chief, yada yada yada, that's stuff that's been in the franchise for years and years. But because a majority of the people haven't read the novels and stuff, that I think caused a lot of backlash there. And then going forward to Halo 5, lots of the characters that they ended up introducing, if you had not seen any or read any of the novels, you were completely confused on who they were and what was going on. Especially at the beginning of Halo 5, they killed off a major character from the novels within the first 10 minutes of the game.
No! Jewel Mdama wasn't originally from the books, he was in Spartan Ops. Halo 4 Spartan Ops.
Okay, but he wasn't extremely fleshed out in that, as much as he ended up getting fleshed out in the novels. And again, most people didn't play Spartan Ops because they saw it as a mobile-style game. Oh, Spartan Ops, okay. No, I was thinking of the Spartan Assault games.
Assault and Strike? No one played those.
Okay, but even still, Spartan, like, it's fun, but I know for a fact there's not a majority of people that ended up playing those maps.
You.
All right. Time. Go back to your corners.
It's a matter of personal pride.
Go back to your corners.
Just last thing I want to say is I just hope that they don't draw too heavily on requiring external media to know what's going on in this game. Because that's where I think there's been issues with in the past, was that.
I can support that. Pieces of media should stand on their own. Just as Halo should not, in my opinion, should not rely on books and external media to help make their in-game stories better, and just going back to your Star Wars analogy, the Disney trilogy should not have relied on external media such as the books to help stitch their movies together.
Like the visual guides.
The pieces of media that tell a story should stand on their own. And it's only after that. Like, external media should enhance the story that has been told, not build up to a story that wasn't fleshed out as well. That's my take on it.
5 stands on its own without the external media.
Moving on.
Okay. Yes. Next game. Next game. We're not going to spend as much time on like 90% of the rest of these games just because we probably don't have a lot of knowledge on this area. But the next game on our list is Decay 3. That got announced. What did you guys think of the
what
trailer?
was that? You cut out for a second.
Decay.
State of Decay 3.
That was weird. That
Zombie
gear
lol.
freaked me out.
Hey Joe, you want to play a zombie game?
I mean, I'd be down. So I played a little bit of the first State of Decay. My brother-in-law loaned it to me for a little bit. I couldn't really get into it, but that was one of those games where I think it's best played with other people.
I can understand that. I mean, I think what they need to do. State of Decay 2 was it wasn't received great.
Didn't that
it was
just come out?
It came
I thought
out
so as well.
I thought it came out in like 2017.
Look at this.
2018.
Is it that old? Hold on.
It can't be.
Well, I'm gonna Google that one sec.
I think we all are.
Came out in
2018.
Ow!
2018.
Wow,
May
it does not seem
22nd,
that
2018.
old.
Does not seem that old.
Well, as you recall, it got panned pretty heavily because apparently it had some repetitive gameplay. Considering that was the biggest criticism of that game, I'm pretty sure they would have fixed that by now.
That's the benchmark for what makes a bad game. Okay. To see them go through Halo Combat Evolved's last few missions.
You're not dragging us back into that. No. State of Decay time.
Watch me.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks like, especially going from the first one even into the second one, it looks like it had a slight change in art style as well.
Yeah, it did. Well, State of Decay. Well,
if I remember,
we didn't
correctly.
see any gameplay from State of Decay 3. It was a CGI looked to be live actiony trailer, so the art style could be completely different than what we saw.
Well, I think I'm talking about just going from at least from the first one to the second one. I'm trying to find screenshots of the first one.
Oh, so you're saying they might update the graphics even further to make it look more realistic?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I am thinking of the right game. But if I remember the first one, it was much like the general art style was much more cartoony-ish. And then just from little I had seen of the second one, it seemed like it was much more realistic looking with like the characters and stuff like that.
Yeah, they definitely went towards that. It seems like a gradual shift away from a cartoony nature to a more realistic nature.
Yeah, and that, I mean, obviously this was a pre-rendered cutscene, but it seems like they're going even farther into a more realistic kind of art style.
Yeah. Well, when I initially saw the trailer, I was immediately like, "Ah, this is a zombie." But I didn't know if it was State of Decay. I didn't know if it was State of Decay 3. When I saw the zombie deer, I was like, "Ah, that's pretty cool." And then, oh,
Data Decay
again, because two didn't release that long ago, only 2 years old,
established.
and
Yeah,
judging,
yeah.
and that seems like a long time, but judging from certain other games' release times, that is actually pretty early. Especially if compared to one franchise that got resurrected.
Oh
We'll get to that
boy.
later. We'll get to that later.
Oh god.
But yeah, State of Decay, State of Decay 3 looks interesting. Hope it'll get better reviews this time. Hope they learn from their mistakes.
It intrigued
you
me,
have
I
any
will
thoughts?
say, to say the least.
Yeah, it piqued my interest. What do you think, Cap? Did it pique your interest?
I'd say so. I'm not
Uh,
really the biggest fan of State of Decay, but if I'm not playing it. Oh, there's a new trailer for Infinite. Just came out 17 minutes ago. We have images of an energy sword now.
Oh, well, I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't add that in the conference.
It looks like the Halo 2 energy sword.
Ew.
Keep talking. I'll relay information as I see it.
Okay, well, I think
yeah,
that's
I
all we
mean-
have to say for.
Yeah,
yeah,
honestly, I thought it might have been like a new Metro Exodus game. I've never played those, but the art style from this cutscene reminded me of at least of what little I have seen of those games. So that was my initial thought.
Game that started in Pripyat. I thought that was a new Metro game. Oh, classic battle rifles back.
You mean well, I feel like there was a game that reminded me of Metro, but wasn't Metro, obviously. But we'll touch on that later. I think next up on the docket, I think that was Forza Motorsport that they.
Race lol. Next game.
Okay, okay. So Motorsport I don't really play. When it comes to like the more realistic racing simulation games, I just can't get into. But I love Forza Horizon, so I am very excited to see what they do on next gen with Forza Horizon, especially with 4 now getting a 4K 60 FPS bump on console. So that's exciting.
Well, all right. I will admit I'm not the biggest racing fan. In terms of racing, and that's about it. But I will say, racing games typically are the cornerstone for showing off graphical abilities, as well as audio abilities. And I know my buddy who I play with on Xbox all the time, Chris, he's a big fan of racing games, and I think he's a big fan of Forza. He's not a big fan of Forza Motorsport. However, in general, he's a fan of racing games, loves cars. I feel like if you took a car and made it into an anime girl, he'd simp over that really hard.
Christ.
But from what we've seen, it looks like what you would expect from a racing. Good visuals and incredible graphics, and in terms of tracks, different cars, the customization that you can do on different cars, that remains to be seen. Obviously, more customization, more options, that's preferable, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, Horizon's probably like the only racing series that I actually give any sort of time to. Like, Need for Speed is fun, but the most recent games just haven't piqued my interest. I guess my biggest gripe with seems like lots of racing games these days is they're moving to that open world driving feel, which isn't bad. I like it in Horizon, but I don't like that even like the casual racing games like Need for Speed are moving to a drive everywhere. I miss the days of just going race to race instead of having to go other places, but that's just my personal opinion. That's just what I like.
Hey, quick thing. In an interview, the lead game designer for Halo Infinite said that wall shield and grapple hook would be pickup equipment in multiplayer.
Oh, okay.
Well, that answers that question.
There you
So
go. Power
that's
weapons.
that's all for Forza Motorsport. From here on out, it gets a little dicey. Memory gets a little dicey because I've been trying to go in order from how they were announced. But
It's just like
after Motorsport, I'm not sure what was announced after that.
Oh.
Is it Everwild that came after that?
I feel like it's time. I feel like it's time that we kick this podcast into high gear. Oh, what was the
Well,
last game that was announced?
no.
Let me
No.
pull
Well,
up the
once
showcase.
It's very, very. Our knowledge about these games in the middle is very, very small. So
Kind of
it's
blended together.
it's a little more rapid fire.
The new Outer Worlds.
New Outer Worlds expansion. I thought that was originally Fallout, but it makes sense because they use the same
Obsidian, yeah.
engine. Yeah,
Hold
it
on.
makes sense because they use the same engine. That looks pretty tight. Gorgon.
What
Looks
about
interesting?
the
I'm
Gunk?
going through trying to get to the actual showcase and just kind of go in order from there.
Don't understand what the Gunk is about. I think I will.
What do you think about Outer Worlds, Burger? Have you played that before?
I have not, but the trailer definitely had me laughing. Just the way that it was presented, I thought that was very, very clever. It reminded me very kind of 1950s, 1960s-esque kind of promotional stuff, kind of like they touched on in some of the BioShock games, or what
I was
little
gonna
I
say
have
that.
played of BioShock 1. So at the very least, it piqued my interest on
Right.
the game.
And that's what a trailer should do. Moving on to the Gunk, that was a little strange. I'm not sure entirely what it's about. The article that I'm looking at right now says that it's basically a game centered around cleaning up pollution in massive areas of black gunk
Let's go.
with some
clean up.
combat elements. So
Oh.
we'll see how that goes. It's a new game. I hope it's unique, interesting, has some good elements. But yeah,
Okay.
the next one I'm looking at is Echo Generation, one that was kind of 8-bit and looked a lot like Stranger Things, but ended up not being that.
I don't remember that.
Some of these
it was,
I think are general ones that they've released. I don't think this list that I sent had every single one they showed today.
well, I think it actually was. I think it was because I watched the whole trailer and yeah, the whole.
Oh, that
stream.
one. Yeah.
Echo Generation. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 8-bit. It looked a lot like a Stranger Things game, but it's basically a turn-based, probably RPG, and it's basically like you fight these mechanized monsters things.
I mean,
So,
it seemed
That
interesting.
seems kind of interesting.
I'm curious, what, you actually do. I guess you're trying to save the world from these invaders, from the
Maybe
looks of it.
solve a mystery as to how these machines be.
I guess
Okay.
one of the other games that they had on the list that came right at the beginning. Did we talk about Everwild?
No.
No.
Okay,
I dropped the name, but yeah.
That looks like a Pokemon Ranger game.
See, I was watching the pre-show, or one of the pre-shows, and they had dropped that they were excited for the game, but I don't remember ever hearing about it. I guess it just wasn't something that I actively followed. But the trailer seemed interesting. The art style I liked it. It was very colorful, and that one also did pique my interests.
And it's from Rareware. The people who made Banjo-Kazooie and Conker's Bad Fur Day and all that. And if I had to guess what like the kind of themes are for Everwild, it's like you take Fire Emblem and then take the art style from Breath of the Wild and just paint over that.
Huh.
I see that.
The kind of vibes I was getting.
Yeah, it was very Nintendo-esque, I think.
Yeah, which, Nintendo games, Nintendo style games on other consoles, I wouldn't mind that. Speaking of Nintendo-style games on other consoles. Sega New Genesis Phantasy Star Online 2 looks very robo anime hack and slash RPG-esque.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've seen new Phantasy Star Online as a game I can download on my Xbox, and I just absolutely refuse. But
See, yeah,
not to say that it's a bad game. It's just that it's not something that interests me.
yeah. For me, what I took from that trailer was it's a game that looks cool, but probably not something that I would ever play.
Same.
I feel like if you really invested yourself into it, like leveling up your party that accompanies you, you could definitely have a lot of fun. But I feel like that's this. If I had to guess, this was going to be a type of game where once you hit the maybe not so official, but nevertheless the end of the game, there's not much else you can do aside from that.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it'd take a while to get to that point. Just from what I'm
a lot
guessing,
of grinding involved, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
So, there's also CrossfireX, which
Most of these, most of these, just
Yeah, I mean, apparently CrossfireX has been on PC for years. I had never heard of it until they talked about it, a month or two ago, as a free-to-play multiplayer shooter, kind of like a CSGO style. The campaign seemed like your typical action flick. At least that's what I got out of it.
It kind of looked like a Ghost Recon with just a little pinch of James Bondness thrown in there.
Yeah, I can see that.
What's an interesting thing is it says that they're going to have fancy equipment and armor, wingsuits, stealthing, and all that. But I did see, and the little text at the bottom of the trailer, it said the multiplayer is going to be free while the campaign is not. And if the multiplayer is free and looks as good as it did in the trailer, there's no harm in me checking it out.
I would say it would depend on the price.
Well, the multiplayer is free, mind you.
The multiplayer, yes, but I'm talking about for a campaign-only game from something I've never played.
Yeah, the campaign would depend on the price and how much I enjoy the multiplayer. So, who knows? That might be a fun thing for the three of us to do in our spare time.
Yeah, be something to
Not
try out.
necessarily record it or whatever, but just try it out.
Yeah.
There was also Warhammer 40,000, Darktide. I'm not a big Warhammer fan, but when I heard the words Inquisitor and saw the little insignia on their chest, I was like, yeah, that's it.
See, I was kind of excited for the game until I saw what it was, just because I never played Warhammer. It seemed like a much different game at first.
Yeah, it looked like, now there's probably going to be more enemies than what was shown, hopefully, but it looks, from the trailer alone, it looks like a zombie game, so take that as you will.
Well, because what, Warhammer, is that an RTS game? What type of game is that?
It does not say, and I've never played it. I know Warhammer... It was an Xbox Gold free game recently.
Oh.
It had a very lengthy title, and I think that was RTS. But yeah. So that seems interesting. There was also, here's the one that I thought was very Metro Exodus-y. Was S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2.
Yeah, that's the one that I thought was Metro.
That was the next one that I also thought as well was Metro.
And it's FPS survival horror, so that's probably the vibes we were getting, plus the guy with the gas mask turning around and looking at the camera, which is pretty much a staple for all Metro type cover art.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've never heard of S.T.A.L.K.E.R before. Seems interesting. It's I like we said, it's survival horror. Hopefully, it's not more zombies. Even though our channel is based around zombies, we don't want the market to be flooded.
And I think the market's been very flooded with zombie games pretty much since Walking Dead got big, I think.
Well, yeah, and if you look at the list of games, you got Warhammer 40,000, which had zombies in it. You've got Stalker 2, which might have zombies in it. You've got a State of Decay 3, which definitely has zombies in it.
Sure.
So, you know what else has skeleton zombies in it was Avowed, which
Oh, yeah.
I mistook for a different game that typically deals with swords and magic and heroes and skeleton zombies and all that. But it looks pretty interesting, and I definitely want to give that a chance. The list that I'm looking at describes it as a Elder Scrolls style first-person RPG. So kind of like Skyrim, like you guys said before we started recording.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested in that. What about you guys?
If I have time, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I never really played Skyrim to begin with. For me, it just ended up being one of those open world games that just had so much to do that I didn't want to do it, or didn't have the time to put into doing everything. So I guess it depends on what type of game this is. If it's a semi-linear game, or if it's not as big a scale as like a Skyrim or a Witcher, I may give it a try. But typically speaking, medieval kind of stuff's not really my thing. I know, trust me, my wife wants to hang me every time I say that.
I want to hang you too.
But it seems interesting. It looked very cool. It's just a matter of how the game plays on whether or not that I would actually end up playing it.
That's fair. I can understand. Jumping into the Psychonauts 2 trailer.
Jack Black!
Jack Black has
like
an
that's the
incredible... He has an incredible voice. I did not know that man could sing.
He has a band.
He does?
Yeah, he's had a band since 2001, I think.
I am floored by that knowledge.
I mean,
didn't know.
it's like a comedy rock group, so you don't really take the music seriously. But they're very good musicians, though. He's a fantastic singer.
Oh yeah, I was a little annoyed at the beginning where they kept cutting back and forth between the gameplay and Jack Black. I was like, because originally I was like, oh yes, Jack Black has an amazing voice, and yes, he's starting to transform into Hagrid. But I really want to see. I really want to see what the game has to offer. And yeah, well, put it this way: imagine taking shrooms or smoking weed and then playing Psychonauts 2. Imagine how ethered you would be.
You'd be pretty zonked.
Well, so that was actually something that they were talking about in the after show that I was watching. The guy had the, I guess, lead developer, some head guy over at the studio. They said not every level is like that. Like those big colors and stuff. They said a lot of it. He said a lot of it was kind of more like the intro to it when he had the brain jar. There was a lot of it that was that kind of style that you saw in the background.
That might be a little misleading then. I feel like that was a poor choice to focus like 90% of their trailer on that style of game.
Yeah, I can agree.
It's a dangerous line they're walking.
Apparently it's been very sought after for years. I never played the first one. I know of it, but I know next to nothing about it. So all I can assume is that it has a similar kind of play style to what this looks like that Psychonauts 2 has, but I mean, I'll give it a try. Well. But
yeah, I'd heard of it as well, but I also knew nothing of it, and after watching this trailer, I still know nothing about it. I've got no clue what it's about. So, I mean...
Yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about that. It has Jack Black. I mean...
and it looks like there's going to be a heavy focus on music.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that was... But, nevertheless, an interesting...
what else?
There's Dusk Falls, which is a painted a painted style interactive drama.
The creation
Oh.
of the game that they showed off looked interesting, but I'm definitely gonna pass on this one.
Well, depending on the price, it's like, oh, for $30 you can play our extremely linear,
Hallmark.
beautifully looking, probably very well voice acted, but nevertheless very linear interactive drama. I'm not sure if I would sink my teeth into that one.
It's a Hallmark movie.
Yeah,
More
it's
violence.
probably something that I would watch a playthrough of on YouTube.
Yeah,
It's something
even-
that would have in the background.
I mean, for me, I probably wouldn't even go watch a playthrough. I'd probably just read the plot of it somewhere and then be
Read the
done with it.
synopsis.
Yeah.
I can understand that. I feel like if the whole conference, that one stood out as the weak point, just as that weird furry dinosaur game stood out in the PlayStation conference.
Oh yeah, that one was strange.
Yeah. I mean, to be
so-
fair, I think that's an indie game, isn't it?
Yes.
It might have been, but still, the
So to
porn
be
that that's
fair,
gonna
indie
spawn-
games end up kind of being put on a different kind of judging scale than
Yeah.
a typical AAA game, and that was something that it looked like they were embracing a lot of this go around, is a lot of indie games and indie developers getting the shine on this console.
Which is good. It is good because indie games is like the cornerstone for innovative ideas where creators can really explore new paths without corporate restriction.
Yeah.
You know, depending on how well those ideas are executed, can really pave a new path for games and game design. Like DayZ started out as an indie game, and even though that's now basically dead in the water, it created, it ultimately set up the path for the battle royale genre. Now, whether you're a fan of that is probably shapes your feelings towards that, but nevertheless, it's really, I don't know. I'm a big fan of indie games. I'm not a fan of how expensive they can sometimes be, but I'm a fan of their category in general.
Mm-hmm.
Ori and the Will of the Wisps getting a graphical and frame rate update. I couldn't tell the difference between the two of them, between the old version and the new version, because my laptop is ass.
Yes.
But
So I loved the first one. I haven't finished it yet. I'm near the end of it, I think. So I still have to get into the second one, but I'm very excited to play this. I took a kind of a gamble with the first one, and the only reason I really kind of played it was because I loved the art style of this game. And I ended up loving the game.
oh, the art style is gorgeous. It's by far one of the prettiest looking games I think Xbox has in their new lineup of games.
Mm-hmm.
Cap, what do you think about it?
It's there. Sure is.
All
Honestly,
right.
I've been at like the back half of the conference. It was just kind of that's neat. Cool.
Well,
Look at that.
yeah, that was kind of my reaction to Tell Me Why. From the developers of Life is Strange.
Eh,
It has.
I thought that was Life is Strange.
Oh, I did too. Because in a sense, it is Life is Strange. They're just calling it something else. Like, it's just
feel
it's
it's
not
the
going to have
same
anything to do
Yeah,
with
the
the Life
same-
is Strange series.
It's the same character models. I'm pretty sure.
Same character models, and it's got just like Life is Strange does. It's on the surface level, it seems very realistic, grounded.
It's like
There's always some freaky voodoo magic shit going on.
it's just a teen in danger sort of game.
Yeah,
Life is Strange is just that.
yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much voodoo shit is going to happen in Tell Me Why, but if hopefully it's going to be a full game and not gated to episodes.
It did say episodes in the
Episodes.
thing.
Well, maybe someday they can release a full game.
It's not.
I don't know. The episodes worked for the Telltale Walking Dead series, but
A Telltale game.
I'm not a fan of it in general. Actually, no. The episodes also worked for Telltale's Wolf Among Us. Aside from that,
All right.
not so much.
Uh,
I think there's
it's
only
time to
one more.
It's time to
There's
nuke
only
this
one more
podcast.
before we get to the big one. Only one more, and we'll touch on this very briefly because I don't even remember seeing this one. Exomecha.
that was in the pre-show I saw.
That's pre-show.
So yeah, it was free to play, first-person shooter that'll also have a unique battle royale mode. Yeah.
It was interesting, but I don't know if it's something that I would take time out of my day to play.
Yeah, he's probably the same. Then
Well,
again, I
alright.
haven't seen the trailer.
Well, they had other stuff. They had other stuff there.
All right, Joe.
Fable time!
Last game that was announced at the conference.
That's not the last
let
game.
me put it this way. There is one that I briefly skipped over, but I'm going to slide that in because it's a part of my story. So this whole conference, after the Halo Infinite gameplay, I was like, man, I've seen all these rumors about Fable coming back after 10 years. I loved the first game. I absolutely adore the second game. The third game, it's the weakest in the trilogy, but by God, after I getting over the initial shock of my first playthrough, where they put that sudden time limit and $7 million gate at the end there, it was really jarring. It really sucks your first time of the playthrough, but after that, you know it's coming. You can prepare. It's a lot better experience. Fable 3, still a great game. I'll die by that sword. And so I was waiting. I was like, Fable 4 rumors. I see all these rumors and shit. Fable, for those who don't know, it's set in a land called Albion, and it follows a bloodline of heroes. In the first game, it's very medieval. There's swords, there's crossbows, there's magic. You stop a bad guy called Jack of Blades, defeat him, there you go. 500 years later, Fable 2 follows the great-great-great-great-great-grandson of the first hero. Your sister gets killed. You become a famous hero, kill the bad guy, become a king. Third game, the son or daughter of the hero in the second game, you overthrow your brother, also the son, in the third game, and assume control as king or queen. You battle against the forces called the Darkness. Very tropey villain. A different name, but is what it is. And after that point, Lionhead, the studio that created Fable, died. It was dead in the water. Fable 3 ended in 2010. They didn't really go anywhere from there. And a lot of people were very concerned that it would never be picked up again. However, there were rumors that were floating around in a sense that following the events of Fable 3, an asteroid would wipe out the land, and the Teresa, the all-seeing prophet, was going to be on another planet with other survivors, and you would have to go back in time to these medieval times to prevent these events from happening. Very weird shit. Very freaky deaky shit. However, it was also rumored that it would be announced today. The game would be announced today. And so when they got to the console exclusives, and I start seeing shit like Tetris, I'm depressed. Because I'm like, what? They put Tetris in the game's review.
My wife's excited for that one. She loves Tetris.
It's a phone game.
No,
You play it on your laptop too. I don't know anybody who would sit down on their Xbox Series X, the greatest graphical system of our time that's not PC, and it would boot up Tetris.
college roommate would.
Suppose there's an exception to every rule. But I digress. I was getting extremely sad. There was 2 minutes left in the conference, and they're just talking like they're wrapping it up. They're like, oh yeah, we didn't show our stuff from all of our other developers. That'll come later in the year. And I'm like, great. I got to wait 5 months for maybe a reveal. And they're like, but we've got one more thing to show you. And I was like, well, I've been disappointed, for so far. And just give it to me. I'm ready for you to finish me off. So give me the knockout punch. And I didn't know that what studio was making Fable. I'm going to call it Fable 4 for convenience, but I'll get to that. I didn't know what studio was making Fable 4, so when I saw Playground Games, I was like, oh, what's this? And I saw the Fable symbol on the hilt of the sword, and I lost my shit. Annoyed my neighbors because I screeched with the power of 1,000 suns. And I was so energetic and happy that it was confirmed. And I see, as you know, for those who saw the conference, the fairy flies up. The narrator's talking about, there's heroes and villains and land where magic and nature coexist. The fairy gets swallowed by a toad. Very so Fable-esque. Yeah, very Fable-esque. Fable is known for its serious nature, but there's a lot of comedy and humor to it, a lot of dark humor too. So that was in the same line as that. And then when I saw the trailer, pan up, reveal the castle from the second and third Fable games, and then the title Fable show up, I was over the moon. I transcended into the heavens, and it was good. Now, I know I'm on a big rant, and I'm gonna ask you guys for your thoughts here very shortly. But I wanna put in one little speculation. I noticed it's not called Fable 4; it's just called Fable, which raises the question of whether it's going to be a reboot or a sequel. The lone title suggests reboot. However, they really haven't given any gameplay or story specifics to it. They basically just said, hey, this is coming out. You don't know what it's going to be about, what it's going to look like, how it's going to play, when it's coming out, but we're working on it and it's going to be released. And for me, I don't care if it's a sequel or a reboot. I'm just happy I'm getting more Fable. So, with that being said, what are you guys' thoughts?
I don't necessarily know the Fable franchise. I know Heretic me. Yep. Too busy playing Halo 4 for the 1,000th time. I'm glad that you are happy.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat as Cap. I know it existed. I know it was a big thing. But I never played it either. But I'm happy that it's coming out for the fans of the series.
There's some troubling history with Fable, is it? Because have you guys ever heard of a man named Peter Molyneux?
Oh boy,
I have not.
Well, he was one of the leaders in design for Fable, and he was known for promising a lot of things, saying a lot of features would be in the game, and they just never showed up. Like Fable 1, he's infamous for saying, like, Fable 1, you'd be able to plant an acorn, watch it grow into a tree over the course of the game, or overthrow a political figure and assume control of the government, which never happens.
Very different things. Plant an acorn or take over a government.
Well, and these are just two examples, but two examples of things that never made it into the game. So he was very well known for basically deceiving the player or deceiving the consumer. And I don't think he intentionally did these things. I think he promised a lot of things that he could do, that he thought they could do, but didn't actually get around to doing. So, in kind of the same vein as No Man's Sky, with the exception of, with that team, they only did it once. With Peter and his team, they did it 3 times. With Most egregious being Fable 3. Fable 3 has its issues, like not having a health bar and it lagging from time, and the story being really short, as well as you not being able to play with other players if you do not own exactly the same DLC. If you like, let's say you and a friend own all the DLC, except your friend doesn't own the free Yule Hat DLC, which basically just gives you a hat in the game. You cannot play with him until he downloads that hat. So
That's rough, especially from when the game came out, when downloadable content and stuff was it was like a thing, but it wasn't as big as it is today.
Well, and it wasn't compacted very well. There was an expansion in Fable 3 that is very impressive. It's about a prison break. It's easily half hour to an hour's worth of gameplay. And that's 10 megabytes of download space. You know how much the free Yule Hat download space is? It's 10 megabytes. It's the exact same file size as an entire expansion DLC.
It's probably more so of an activating it more so probably than anything, because I know on Xbox with the Master Chief Collection, both Reach and ODST are a 10 megabyte file size, and I think all that does is activate it within the game.
It tells the game that you have it.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. So I withdraw that grievance. Still, for all that, I still love Fable 3. However, Peter and Lionhead are not working on this new game. Playground Studios is. I haven't heard them do any... I don't know any of their previous work, but all I know is that I'm getting more Fable, and I'm really excited for that, and the graphical difference is going to be incredible. There are 360 graphics from 2010 to Xbox Series X graphics from in 2020, maybe even 2021, and that's going to be a huge improvement. And I feel like it's just going to be better on all fronts. Rumored to be the best Fable yet, which I'm so happy about. And yeah.
So the big thing that Playground Games has actually been known for the last few years is the Forza Horizon series.
Oh,
that's primarily what they've worked on. And, like earlier this year or late last year, there were rumors floating, or I think they said that there was a new sub-studio in Playground Games that they were hiring for that were making a completely new game separate at all from their racing stuff. So they've hired a lot of people specifically for this game. And they opened a whole new studio.
I knowing that now, I'm incredibly happy about, because the Forza games, like I said before, they're graphically amazing. And
big worlds, too.
And now Fable's a lot more cartoony than a racing game, but still, I'm sure it's going to look amazing. One more rumor I did want to touch on is that before any of this got announced, the Fable 4 Twitter biome, it got snatched up by Microsoft. And people were like, hey, why did you snatch that up? That's you doing something with Fable? And Microsoft's like, no, we're not doing anything. We can't confirm anything. That's we just snatch it up because we don't want false information and fake news coming from a Twitter account with that domain that isn't officially sanctioned by us. And people are like, yeah, I suppose that makes sense. But now we know that they were just blowing smoke.
Well, to be fair, it's not a full-on lie.
It's not a full-on lie, but it's just, definitely not a whole truth.
They're bending the truth a little bit.
Yeah, which, if you ask my parents, that's the same as a lie, but...
Yeah. Well, something that they had in one of the post shows that I was watching, they weren't, who was it? It was Andrew, one of the big guys at Xbox. His name starts with an A, I can't remember. Like Greenbrier or Greenfield or something like that. He was saying they didn't have a lot of info that they could release on the game yet, except that it supposedly features the same type of British humor that was found in the previous games in the series.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Playground Games, they're a UK-based company, so, if you're going to have them make a game with British humor, have a British company make it.
I'm not really sure if Fable classifies as British, but
That's just what I heard thrown around a lot when talking about it.
hey, if it's the same style as humor and that's what British humor is, then that's fine. I just don't know if that would classify because I don't watch British television. I don't sit down and flip on BBC and zone out for 10 hours.
I think British humor, from what I gather, is much more dry, and it's less obviously funny compared to American humor.
Yeah, it's okay. I will say that is the style of Fable. It is a lot more dry. However, well, and also all the accents in the game, well, most of the accents in the game are typically UK accents.
Nice.
So that makes sense. I feel like that really, I always chalk that up to be more of a thematic element to the medieval times. Because when you think medieval times, you think kings and London and the UK and that vein. At least I do.
That's fair.
But yeah, so that's all.
Well,
Halo Infinite, Fable, two heavy hitters. One that everybody wanted to know more about, and one that a lot of people didn't see coming. We've got the highs and the lows, from highs such as that to lows such as Tetris.
Well, there is one more high, though, that we didn't touch on that actually really changes my opinion on some of the stuff that Microsoft's been doing with Xbox.
Hey, what's that?
Game Pass. The fact that all of these games are going to be available the day they come out on Game Pass is fantastic. Because I know we've had discussions previously about, Game Pass is an okay deal if you have the time for it, and you're kind of open to any game. Game Pass is fine. But at least for me, I don't have necessarily the time to devote to all the types of games that they have in there. And most of the games they have in there currently that I would play, I already own. So the fact that all of these games, which I'd say majority of them are at least worth looking into, that adds a lot more value in my eyes to Game Pass. Especially if they end up, since they already got rid of Xbox Live, if they end up merging that together, to me, it makes it seem more worth it.
Wait, no. You don't just skip over that. Go back. They got rid of Xbox Live?
Yeah, Phil Spencer talked about it, I think, last week. They're getting rid of Xbox Live Gold. They haven't said what they're doing with it. So my hope is that since they've removed Xbox Live Gold, and this is just me speculating at this point, because the PC space, specifically with Microsoft games on PC with multiplayer, that's still connected to Xbox Live, but it's already free. You don't have to pay for it. So my hot take and my speculation with what they're doing with removing Xbox Live Gold and knowing Phil Spencer's, gamers first ideology, my guess is Xbox Live at its, Xbox Live Gold will now be free. So we'll have free multiplayer on Xbox. But with now that they've also said that they're adding XCloud into the Game Pass, and since they're really pushing hard with their Game Pass, especially with this next generation of console, the addition of XCloud, I think, is going to help offset the cost of the Xbox Live Gold that was originally bundled in with it. Because it doesn't look like they're changing the price of Game Pass now that they've removed Xbox Live Gold. So my guess and my hope is we're getting free multiplayer across the board, and the addition of XCloud into Game Pass is helping to offset that cost.
By God, if Philly Cheesesteak goes through and makes Live free, I am going to be over the moon. Because then I'll be more inclined to buy Game Pass when I'm not worried about, I got to set aside $60 a year for Xbox Live.
I mean, now if they don't, and then you end up having to buy Game Pass just to get Xbox Live, then I'll be upset. Because before I'm paying $60 a year, a one-time thing to play just basic multiplayer games. Now if I'm forced to spend $10 at least a month, just for multiplayer, I'm paying double the cost now of what I was before.
Right.
Granted, I'm getting
Knowing
more
Phil
out of
Spencer-
it, but still.
knowing Phil Spencer and his ideology, I don't think Philadelphia is going to go through with that because he seems very, like you said, gamer focused. He's tired of us seeing of us being oppressed for so long, and he's really helping us rise up. But
And then that may also help offset the potential high cost of the next gen consoles, because they haven't revealed any pricing for that yet at all between Xbox and PlayStation. So if we're
Fingers
getting
crossed.
free multiplayer with the Xbox and PlayStation still maintains a at least $60 a year subscription service, I think that'll also help sway a lot of people.
Is WoW. I don't know if I could. Well, obviously, I'm going to get the Series X solely on the basis that Fable is that. But they're doing a lot of good programs. Possible free live. They're bringing back Fable. It seems like they're rejuicing up Halo to what it to the ground status it once was. They're making a lot more games backwards compatible, and they're making a lot more player-friendly decisions.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I want to ask, though, before we end this, what is XCloud? I have no idea what that is.
Game streaming.
It's game streaming. I actually just registered right now. So you have the app on your phone. You need to have a Bluetooth-enabled Xbox controller, so basically just a wireless Xbox controller. You can play Xbox games from your phone.
Oh my god.
It's like their version of Google Stadia.
We
But it sounds like it's better.
Don't mention that cursed system.
It's got Halo 5, Halo Wars 2, MCC, Dead by Daylight. It's on most of the Gamepass games on it, like Yakuza.
Oh, I'm not sure my phone wouldn't explode if I play, let's say, The Witcher 3 on my phone.
It's all streaming. It's like watching Netflix on your phone.
Except you're playing Halo 5.
Yeah.
So, let me get this straight. So, it wouldn't be you playing the game from your phone. It would basically be like your phone acting as the screen?
Yes.
Yep. No Xbox required.
Yeah, I feel like that would have a lot of... I'd have to see how it works, but right off the top of my head, I'm thinking of issues with graphical downgrades, lags, control issues, stuff like that. I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but this is such a entry into the unknown that it raises all of these questions and possible issues.
Well, if you look at Google Stadia as well, when that launched, talked about a rocky start.
And it's still having a rocky start.
Exactly.
And it's Google. They shouldn't have that issue. It's like next to Amazon. I think it's the most profitable company on the planet. There's no reason that Stadia should have failed.
But it did.
I think the big thing is just the general infrastructure or across the world isn't fully up to, the speeds needed to stream stuff at a high quality. So I think it's definitely forward thinking, but I don't think worldwide it's ready to be fully adopted yet.
Right. Well, I think that just about covers it.
Well,
we've talked for a good long while on this.
I do just want to say, though, I think from what I saw today, it looks like Xbox, now that they've acquired 15 separate studios, they actually have a good array of first-party and console-exclusive titles. They don't have as many story-driven ones still as PlayStation, but we did see a few. Like you guys said, with Tell Me Why, which I didn't know was by the same people as Life is Strange. I never played those at all. I know nothing about those, but Tell Me Why was intriguing, at least to me, to say the least. I've really started to appreciate story-driven games more so over the last few years. So that sort of piqued my interest, and then that new Medium game coming out. That gave me kind of Stranger Thing vibes with being able to play in the exact same world, but in 2 different versions of that world.
That's right, the Medium game. That wasn't on the list. That did look kind of interesting. A little weird, but kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious to play it. I mean, I think it's good that they've really gotten some more story-driven game exclusives on the console, as well as they got some more Japanese developers on it with them, which usually was more so Nintendo and PlayStation, so it's nice to see that Xbox is starting to get that kind of market as well. You know, with like the Phantasy Star game, or one that they released in the pre-show, that Baland Wonderland. The pre-show I was watching, everyone was super hyped up about that game. It just seems like a very, like, kind of low-stress, just fun-to-play platformer game. So it's nice to see that they have a lot of diversity this go-around compared to the last.
Yeah, I forget his name, but whoever the hell was, in charge of Xbox when the Xbox One initially released, he was absolutely terrible. He took Xbox back a good number of steps, but it doesn't seem like Phil has taken Xbox and have them catch up to PlayStation, but it feels like Xbox is only a couple steps behind PlayStation now, as opposed to the mile or two that they were before.
Oh, I'd say it was more than a mile or two behind before Phil Spencer.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, during the course of the Xbox One's life cycle, once Phil Spencer came on, he really was purely doing damage control and trying to get the Xbox name and brand back up to where it was during the 360 and PS3 days.
Praise be our boy Philly. And with that being said, thanks for tuning in. If you stuck around all the way, good on you. Leave a like if you feel like it. If you don't, then don't, I guess. Leave a comment down below. But what are your thoughts on any of the games we talked about on XCloud, on Xbox Live, the rumors, any of that? Theories, thoughts, speculation, what have you? Are you excited for Fable to come back? If not, don't leave a comment. I don't want to hear it. But with that being said, I've been Joe.
And Jack, I guess.
Joseph.
And this has been a nice side special episode of Dead Headz Podcast. Have a great rest of your day, guys.